You have to walk the talk. You have to be authentic as a leader. If you're not doing it, they see that.
It is entirely universal. There's other people who are going through this.
For me, a great leader needs to be able to marry three things: vision, systems, and people.
Welcome to Leadership Moments. If this is your first time, and if you are returning, thank you for your support.
This show is about leaders from all walks of life, leadership tips, and maybe even a little of what you wouldn't expect to help you in leadership.
We would appreciate it if you tell someone else about our podcast as we strive to support all leaders that want to just be better.
Let's get on with the show. Welcome to Leadership Moments with Tracy and Palmer. And we are here to explore pivotal stories, mindsets, and breakthroughs that shape extraordinary leaders. I am absolutely thrilled today to have an incredible guest, Dr. Camille Preston, with us. We're diving into the neuroscience of high performance. Everyone knows I'm really passionate about that.
For good reason.
Yeah, for good reason. That's right. The courage of real leadership, another incredible topic, and how to create flow amidst the chaos, something I know that every leader is concerned with at this time. And Dr. Camille Preston, I'm so happy to have you here. I just want to give sort of a quick shout out to all the stuff you've done, and then we're going to dive right in. Okay. So Dr. Preston is a trailblazer in leadership psychology. She's a peak performance expert. She's the founder of AIM Leadership and an acclaimed speaker, a trusted advisor to executives all around the globe. Her work is deeply rooted in neuroscience, human potential, and real-world leadership transformation. She's also the author, because she couldn't stop there, of course. She's the author of 3 powerful books: Rewired, Create More Flow, and her latest book, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about today, Living Real. And each one is a guidepost for leading with clarity, with courage, and authenticity. So, Dr. Camille Preston, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm beyond excited for our conversation today.
It's going to be fantastic. So I'm going to just dive in because everyone has to hear what you have to say. And I know we always have a limited amount of time. So let's begin. Living Real, your latest book. In a time where, I think curated perfection is everywhere, what does it truly mean to live and lead real?
Yeah, so it's a fascinating book that I, in full transparency, didn't intend to write another book, but it came knocking. And what I started looking at was the unintentional ways we have shallowed our lives. We spend so much time thinking about our brand and our image and being Insta ready and putting out this rainbows, unicorns, lollipops vision of kind of how our life is. And life is messy. It has complications. And what we're starting to see is that when we put out this polished version, it actually shallows our relationships. It shallows kind of the richness that makes our lives messy, beautiful, full of learning, full of incredible opportunities. And so while no one really seeks out hard things, when we live real and we feel the full range, the highs and the lows of life, it actually puts our lives in 3 dimensions, if not 4 dimensions. It gives texture. It creates the richness that makes us feel present and rooted in the part of our lives and leads to happiness.
What an incredible conversation we're about to have, because I'm going to tell you something. Often when I am talking to my friends, like real talk, right? Real talk, right? And they go, oh my gosh, it looks like you're just soaring on Instagram, or you're just out there like, oh my gosh, doing it all. And I go, no, you know that the real story is very different, right? What it took to do that is huge, hard, the problem is you can't go out there, to your point, like social media doesn't accept the fact that you're going to go out there and like go, this is really, really hard. Okay. And the reason I'm sharing this with you is because, in this world of health and wellness and all that kind of stuff, I've been leveraging some incredible technology. This is what I want to tell you. You know what I've been up to these last 2 years. I got a call from the lady who does the analysis, and she said, we got to talk because not only like is your stress off the charts, but your emotions. I've never seen so many emotions on someone's chart. You had 127 emotions over 2-year period.
That's living real. That's life.
That's real.
That's real. Yes.
That's why I'm sharing it, because I love where you're going with this. I just love it because it's time to I can't stand these superficial conversations anymore.
Or these companies that pop up overnight, or in Instagram success. It's like, no, there's a lot of grit and heartache and hard work that goes into it. And, that like you just came out with your first album, right? Like you had that release. There were so many hard hours and there's probably so much disappointment that went into it. If people only see the media, they're like, oh, Tap's life is like just blessed. And then the part that gets me really activated, especially in the times that we're in right now, is it's really easy to compare ourselves with other folks. And so, I'm seeing your highlight reel and all I'm looking at is my blooper reel. And it's that can be really difficult. So we already have a really vocal inner critic, many of us. And if we then add this kind of perception that everybody else's life is insta perfect, it can stack upon what we're seeing, which is unprecedented burnout, height of depression, anxiety, and loneliness at an all-time high. 1 in 5 adults feels lonely on a daily basis, which is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It's really bad for us to feel lonely. And this shallowing that we're a part of is I think a huge culprit of it. So I love that you're speaking out about the success comes with the whole range.
Yeah, no, this is so important to us as a society, you know. I mean, as you said, I mean, even if you look at the rates of the suicide within our young children, there's a reason for that. Okay. And I think it's because it's all of that, like, oh my gosh, I see everyone else's life so perfect. And here, and that's not true. It's not true. So how do leaders get out of this sort of I've got to look perfect all the time performance mode into being present?
Well, so you're making that connection. I'm just going to make that connection clear for our audience. Um, I had one leader say to me, Camille, we have really casual commitments. And I was like, say more. He's like, well, we make commitments, but then when people don't follow up and don't meet the timeframes, we don't hold them accountable. We don't have the conversation of like, you said this, you delivered this, what's happening? I said, well, how are your returns? He said, they're pretty casual too, right? So hard work delivers hard opportunity, but that comes with being deeply honest and seeing yourself and seeing all that is. And I think when we are able to be real and see all of that, we hold the tension, and that is tension creates consciousness. When we can hold the tension of hard things, we build muscle and capacity to step into these new opportunities. And that's what leadership is, especially in this day and age where we're navigating so much complexity.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I want to stay on this because this to me is it's a big it's a big problem right now. It's a big problem. And even with all the people that I speak to, they feel stuck because they feel like, oh, it's not moving fast enough. And I'm like, remember, things are not linear. Everyone's journey is different. Okay. And but again, to your point, because they're not living in the real world right now. right? They're living in the superficial world. So you speak about in the book, you speak about the costs of not being real, right? The cost of not being real. Can you just talk a little bit more about that for our audience?
So, the metaphor I put forth is whenever something hard happens, imagine you put it in a box and you put duct tape over the box and you put it in the metaphoric basement of your house. So, you take hard things, tuck them away, neat and tidy in the basement. What we don't realize is that we're tucking away every time we put something in the basement, we put an equal size box in the second floor of our house. So, what originally started as a way of being neat and tidy and not dealing with hard things actually avoids the hard things, but it also eliminates our ability to feel joy and happiness. So our world, which had a basement, first house, first floor, second floor, all of a sudden becomes single floor living and it becomes cramped. So our emotions become cramped, the quality of our conversations become cramped, the diversity of our relationships become cramped, and we start to see we're just not accessing information, we're not accessing emotions, we're not accessing that full range. And as you know, it's that richness of the full range, which is where we grow and stretch and step into new parts of ourselves.
Yeah, I really want to dive into that because there's this in corporate, there's this mentality of uh, you can't be negative. Okay. Now I don't believe talking about pragmatic things is negative, but it's like if you're constantly the person that's bringing up the like devil's advocate stuff, right? Because everyone wants to just be optimistic. You can only talk about the good stuff, Camille. That's it. Can't talk about the stuff that's hard. You can only talk about the good stuff. How do you advise leaders to sort of deal with that in this world that we're living in?
So I think that is the assumption that people have been under, which is you have to be positive, you have to be upbeat, you have to be like always spinning. And I see it a lot in the entrepreneurial world because they're always selling, they're always saying that we're crushing it, we're moving forward. And what actually happens is that becomes their mindset, that becomes all they see. And then they have major problems in their company and they can't triage it. They can't see it. So it almost becomes blinders for some folks, which means that they don't have as much time to mitigate challenges. I think the thing I'm seeing in corporate America is that people are more savvy than we might want to believe. People have access to an incredible amount of information. So if a leader is perceived as disingenuous and only spinning positive truths, people start to tune out. They start to listen. They start to kind of cross their arms, lean back because they know, they can feel it. And so it's a counterintuitive thing for many leaders. They've been rewarded for their positivity for so long. And now it's a little bit turning on its head, which is to say, you have to be genuine, you have to be authentic. And for many years, I've said that vulnerability is power. If you can be deeply open and vulnerable and honest, not only do people lean in because they see who you are, it's actually a critical piece in your own development. It's only when you develop comfort in your own vulnerability that you can hold the complexity, which is all around us, right? We are in a time of such immense complexity, change, and tension like we've never seen before. So it's almost an imperative for leaders and those who continue to kind of speak happy, nice, positive are actually watching people pull back.
Yeah, totally. So, what have you seen in organizations or teams when authenticity is missing? I think it's what you just said, but but uh, to me that sounds like I have a disengaged team or disengaged workforce now because they don't believe me.
Yeah, and so another way to say this in a way that people understand is psychological safety. If someone is looking at their boss and they're saying, "My boss doesn't think it's safe to be real," I'm going to listen deeply. I hear that. I'm not going to be real because I'm following their lead. And then all of a sudden you start to see trust contract. You see information not being shared. You see people not committing on things, maybe not taking the risks, not moving. And so you're particularly seeing this right now when we're in an era of job hugging, right? People are holding on. We've never seen this level of uncertainty, this level of heightened emotions, this level of contracted trust, and people are feeling it.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I totally believe that. Yes. Now, talking about living real, how you said that you weren't going to write another book. How did that come about?
It's so funny. It's funny now, wasn't funny then. December 8th at 4 a.m, I literally it was like source, God, whatever you want to call that divine creative energy. I was like, knock, knock, knock. Here's a book outline. And I remember saying, 2 kids, 2 books, I'm done. And I rolled over. And then it was like, knock, knock. I'm not going away. And then it was like, poke, poke. I was like, okay, I'm gonna write down the outline. I'm not committing to writing it. But an incredible thing happened. I literally sat with, it was a massive shift for me. Rather than saying this is what I want or this is where I'm going, I was like, if I'm meant to write this, make it clear, make it easy. Like, open the path for this to happen. And I literally had this big event that I had spent a long time on cancel in January. And I remember thinking, oh, there's a week I can go away from my family. I can sit down, I can write. And literally, I was like, should I go to the snow or should I go to the beach? Like, I'm going to go away from my family. Am I going to snow or beach? And I texted one of my really good friends and I said, you have this rental property in Myrtle Beach. Any chance it's available Q1? She said, it's only available 1 week. And it was that week. I was like, oh, so there we have it. And I got to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and it snowed 13 inches. And
Oh, my
it
word.
didn't melt. So I was like, okay, I'm listening. I got the beach and snow. I'm like, I meant to write this book. So, and that is a really hard thing to do in this day and age when so much is coming at us and there's so many shoulds, to actually find that stillness and go inward and actually start to reel with yourself. Like, what matters most? What am I meant to bring forward? So it's been a really humbling and I'd say exciting journey now that I'm on the other side of
Yeah,
some of the
exactly.
chaos.
Probably a little hard while you're going through it, right? Well, also because you're putting the words down and you want them to matter. You want them to make a difference.
And for anyone who's listening that's in a creative pursuit, so I wrote the book because it came to me and it came out of a season of grief. And I now see that it was actually preparing us for what we're navigating now, which is massive uncertainty, massive complexity. And I think we need to listen inward to our own truth, start to build these connections and forge these bridges in our workplace, in our communities, to really open us to this next new chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that note, because I do want to pivot, I want to talk a little bit about some of the other things that you've done. But on the book specifically, what are some of the key takeaways and gold nuggets for our audience that you can share?
So you can visit our website, livingreal.aimleadership.com, and download the first chapter. The book is in 3 parts. The first part is understanding shallowing. What is it and what is it costing us? If you've got that and you're like, I want to dive in, the second section is saying, okay, what does it mean to live more real? How do I start to do that? And then the third section is really, what does this mean as a way of being in the world? And the subtitle of the book is redefining success, presence, and happiness. And the idea is that when you figure out your own definition of what is success, you actually are more present to the people you love. You're more able to engage and you're able to live a richer, more fulfilled, more happy life. And that sounds trite, but the feedback that we've been getting, Tap, is beyond humbling. It's awe-inspiring.
Yeah, so I am reading the book, and it's, again, as I said, it's something that I just feel is really, really important, because I do feel the world is getting shallower and shallower and shallower. And those connections, people are losing those real connections. And to your point, that's the quality of life that brings you the happiness. The shallowness doesn't bring you happiness. It's the deep connections that bring you happiness.
And you know this, it's the hard stuff that you learn and grow through.
Yeah, that's it, right. That's exactly right. So you then wrote, your first book was Rewired. And it's such a powerful bridge, sort of between the brain, science, and leadership, which I'm fascinated about, by the way. What are some of the mental patterns that hold leaders back? We talk about this all the time, but what are some of those mental patterns? And how can rewiring lead to more clarity and effectiveness?
Such a great question. So, for listeners in context, this book came out in 2011. And this is a time that we were still not dialed into how technology was changing us. And so it was a real manifesto, an eye opener to say, you know what? Technology is great when we are driving it, when we are using technology to create the life we want. But what happens is when technology is in the driver's seat, we can start living almost like our head cut off, and we're being driven by the technology rather than at choice. And so I use this analogy that we often operate overwired. We're either doing like frenetic, or done. And it's only when we build our capacity to step back and unplug, we get to do a little reset. And in that reset, we can choose how we engage with technology. We can get back in that driver's seat. And so at the time, I was really talking about how important it is to understand the volume, the variety, the velocity, and the veracity of information that was coming at us, because it's changing how we operate. It's changing how we're wired. I still think that today we're seeing the tail of this, which is to say, young people who are using technology really don't have the self-awareness and self-regulation to know when they should close the window, when they should turn off the device, when they should step back. And it's really hard to be a young person. When I wasn't invited to something, I didn't know I wasn't invited until I got to school on Monday. Now it's happening real time, and you're seeing everything that everybody else is doing, and it's taxing. So the book kind of introduces this concept of what is technology doing to us, which we often turn a blind eye to, gives you some really tactical strategies to unplug and then to reclaim choice. And then it gives you tools to really start to say, what are the things that I can do, that I can put in place? The fences, the focus, the filters, the fuel, the friendships that are going to really set me up for success. So it was really fun. And I guess I'm realizing in my mind, it was from yesteryear, but it's still relevant
Oh
today.
gosh, if not more relevant. If not,
My kids are going to love you, Tap. They're going to be like, my mom's making me read her first book now. Darn it. Who did mom talk to?
well, that issue hasn't changed. It's still there, and people are getting worse. I was at a well, actually, I went on a trip, and I'm looking at everybody around me. It didn't matter if it was, people on the ground waiting for the airplane to take off, on the phone. Then the guy up at the top doing the luggage on the phone. I mean, everyone around, right? There's no interaction going on with people. It's all on the phone, on the device. Yeah.
So true.
So true. Yeah. Anyway, wow, just crazy.
So I will say that my kids didn't have school yesterday. They had a school holiday. So we drove up to New Hampshire, and we had a little cottage there, and the electricity was off. The electrician had been there. He had an accident. He needed to go get stitches. And it meant we were camping in the dark, and it was a little unexpected. We sat on the dock, and we had the best conversation under the moon, because there was nothing, right? Like all there was moonlight. And my prayer for my own life is that I don't wait for the electricity to go off to do that, because it was so lovely. It was so connected.
Yeah, how amazing. But the question is, would it have happened if the electricity wasn't off?
Probably would have, but it would have been probably mom doing a little more, come on, guys. This was like, all right.
Yeah, this is happening. Okay, so you wrote the second book, Create More Flow. And it really resonated with me, especially the point, which is not just for what I call sort of creators or athletes. It's a leadership imperative. So why is flow so essential, and how can we get more of it? And maybe even just explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, so flow is this interesting concept that came from an incredible psychologist, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, in the 70s. And he interviewed people who were at the peak of their game. So they were incredible artists or engineers, just like people who are world renowned. And they would all describe how they would lose themselves in this state of flow. And so he really codified that. And one of the easiest places to find flow was often in extreme athletes, right? Because they were pushing the envelope, they were doing hard things, and their flow activities were weather dependent. So I happened to be a big skier, and what they found was that they would ski their hearts out and have these incredible powder days, but then they'd get snowed in and they would rest and recharge. And so they actually started to unlock flow, and then MRIs came in. We could start to understand what's happening in our brain. So from the 70s, when we just identified the concept, till now, we can really understand, how do we redesign our environment? How do we think about how we set up our lives to experience more flow more often? So almost hacking it. And it's, again, this is a lovely conversation, Tap, because I'm realizing this book was written before the pandemic. It was written, I think, in 2016 or 2017. I think my daughter was 1 or 2. But the pandemic actually opened people up because they were released from all the rigors or the structures or the shoulds, and they had more time and space to themselves to start to experiment with, what is my ideal day? What is my ideal rhythm? What do I need in my workspace? What is it that helps me be productive? And I think that's part of the resistance we're having to this, like, return to work. Some people are like, oh, I didn't realize I had gotten into so much flow in my workplace,
Yeah,
in my home workplace.
totally. Absolutely. So what's the first thing a busy leader can do tomorrow to invite more flow? Like some practical advice.
Yeah. So what happens neurologically is your brain experiences flow. It doesn't necessarily say, oh, this was writing flow or creative flow or cooking flow or running flow. So I'm a huge believer in getting into flow early in the day, because it's like priming the pump. And so some of the things I do is I love to run, and I lose myself running, and that actually often sets it up for success. So one thing is finding a way into flow. The second thing is finding stillness. And that creates that tension, right? If we can find that stillness and reconnect into what I often describe as a sense of longing, actually open yourself back up into that space that can be so enlivening.
So on that note, then, what are some of the hidden blockers that we may not even realize that were sort of that hidden flow, like the flow blockers? You know what I mean? Like what stops us from getting into flow?
Well, one thing that we've talked about, that pulling from our prior conversation, is safety. Like, there's something about flow where you have to be willing to, there's something about risk. There's something about combining intense focus. Like, so you've been practicing, and then there's a surrender, a letting go. For folks who can't link flow, I often think of it as a Reese's moment. For those of us who might be the older generation, there was like this old cartoon about roller skaters and chocolate. Someone eating chocolate bumped into someone eating peanut butter, and it created Reese's. And that's kind of what happens in flow, where you're so immersed in something that you lose track of time. So having blocks of time, having barriers so that you could actually lose yourself in flow, giving yourself permission to try something hard, the safety that it can really be an opening. There's a lot. And then teamwork too. We often tend to focus on individual flow, but often if you are still, you can think about, who are those people that I just jived with that I want to reconnect with.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So what is a defining leadership moment? So a time in your life where just everything changed.
The book, writing this book has been like a series of those moments, because I think so many of us are so driven and so passionate, and we have such desire to serve and desire to be out there in the world. And again, the book chose me in many ways, but I had no idea what an impact it was going to have. I had no idea how much the world needed to hear that. And if I had been in my own head or in my own wishes, I would have written probably a different book. So for people who are on the cusp or feeling uncertain, or are questioning what is that next step, my biggest thing is to find stillness, find nature, and let go of kind of the ego, the me, into the what is being called forth from you.
So I'm sort of going to do a quick round with you because I want the audience to get to know you just a little bit better, like I am. A quote that shaped your life.
A mantra that I've tried to live by is clear on the outcome, flexible on the approach. Like, know what matters and then ebb and flow and how it happens.
I love that.
I think it's good for leadership. I think it's good for parenting.
Yes.
I think it's good for life.
Yeah, that's amazing. Your favorite flow ritual?
Oh, I'm a diehard telemark skier. So I would say, so telemark skiing is like a cross between cross country and downhill, where your heel is not locked in. So we are a cult personality. Like, it's just such a fun way of skiing. But for me, there's something about being in the Aspens on a powder day. The air is crisp, the powder is like butter, and I feel like I'm 5. If you want to join us on a ski retreat, I will share this with you. We have a couple coming up in January, but I literally feel like I'm 5 years old, and it's so much fun.
Oh,
so much fun.
That's amazing. I hadn't even heard of that. I didn't even know what that was.
Oh, it's phenomenal. You don't have to be a telemarker to come to Powder Mountain with us on our retreat, but we're welcoming boarders, skiers, just love being out in the Aspens. Yes, that's a great question. Thank you for activating that in me.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. So what is one thing you wish all leaders would just stop doing?
I wish they would, and I'm going to be a little bit more gentle than that. I would wish they would tune into their inner critic, and I wish they would turn down the volume. I think so many people are like, well, I should just stop that part of myself. It's hard. Turn down the volume, because the world needs you to be serving and creative. And there's so much inside you. There's so much mastery that we want to unlock inside you.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I actually heard a TEDx talk once where the guy said, imagine being in the trenches with that friend that's in your head.
Yeah.
What kind of friend is that? Right?
Well said.
Yeah.
So well.
Yeah. And you're right. We are our own worst enemy. So any last words of advice for our audience today?
Well, obviously, I'm a big believer in the book. So you can go to livingreal.aimleadership.com to listen to a chapter, download a chapter. I would say challenge yourself to make a micro shift, one small shift that moves you closer to being more genuine. Whether that's being really present and seeing someone around you, or sharing a little bit of yourself about what's really happening. It can be highlights or lowlights, but when you open and share of yourself, you'll be amazed at what that invites from those around you.
So with that, to learn more about Camille's work or to bring her into your organization, head over to CamillePreston.com. And you can also pick up her books, Living Real, Rewired, and Create More Flow. They truly are transformative reads, and I highly recommend it for any of the leaders that are part of our audience and our community. If this episode has sparked something inside of you, please share it, please rate it, and also subscribe to more at leadershipmomentspodcast.com. So until next time, lead with vision, live with purpose, and never forget to keep rippling.
If you enjoyed the show, please go to leadershipmomentspodcast.com to subscribe to the podcast or on your favorite player, as well as follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn.
You can also send us a message on what you like and don't like, or what guest you want us to have on the show.
So until next time.
This is Stacey Castor, and what doesn't challenge you won't change you.
And I'm Tracy Ann Palmer. Be the change you wish to see in the world.